So you mentioned that examiners are looking for something specific. Can you say more about that, other than just mistakes or knowing about the contents of what you're writing? What else are they looking for?
Yeah, so in the lessons, it's a couple hours just on that, actually. But for the quick general overview, you're looking at 4 things, all right? So there's about 200 little things within those 4 elements. Number 1 is, well, grammar. That's pretty straightforward, right? Within grammar, you have simple versus complex sentences. So a person who writes mostly simple sentences will be at a lower score. A person who writes mostly complex sentences will be at a higher score. A person who writes mostly complex sentences and a variety of tenses will be at a higher score, right? You're looking at mistakes and things like that too, how mistakes affect the intelligibility of what they're writing. You are also looking at vocabulary, so words, the words that people use. And if a person kind of reuses the same words over and over and over to an examiner, it shows that maybe they're a bit limited with what they have in terms of their vocabulary. If the person, it's a good tip actually, is that even experimenting with new words and being risky and putting in kind of advanced words, even if there's a couple mistakes in there, that's better than playing it safe and using the same words over and over again.
Okay.
Yeah, and the people who move really high in those scores are people who show a very precise, they call it lexical resource, and they'll use words that, for an examiner, you would kind of hear outside of the classroom. So it's generally people who demonstrate that they have learned really outside of the classroom. It can be reflected in the vocabulary. And it's pretty interesting. So when you hear something like that, so for example, if we talk about the weather here, and you say, "Oh, it's it's so cold outside. I think my hair's freezing," and it's that type of thing. Common language. It shows a lot for an IELTS exam. So if you watch movies and things like that, even though it does need to be formal in the exam, hey, be experimental. If you think of a cool word, even using the word "cool" shows. It might seem a bit informal, but actually it shows that you have a variety of contexts that you can use in the exam.
Okay, like using figures of speech, something like that. Okay, well, that's good to know. Because when we write an exam, we try to be as formal as we can, because that's what even myself think that the examiners are looking for.
Yeah, in everything else, that's it. So especially writing has to be incredibly formal.
Yes.
But speaking, if you're at a certain level and you're bringing out these really interesting words and things like that, great, that's just fantastic. The other 2 elements are so we're speaking about writing specifically, is task response. So this just means, did the person answer the question? And it happens a lot where a person will begin discussing the question at hand. So it might be something like, some people prefer to live in apartments and other people prefer to live in houses. Which one do you prefer and why? Or discuss the advantages and disadvantages of both. And it seems kind of obvious what you need to do, right? But people will go off topic with this sometimes, right? Or maybe someone will only discuss the advantages and not the disadvantages when the question asks for both. So that kind of thing is pretty important in terms of getting that score that you need, of course. There's strategies that we really discuss very thoroughly in the lessons. Okay. To make sure that's not an issue. You see, you're making notes already, yeah?
Yes.
Perfect. And then the other element, so the 4th element is called, we call it CC. So it's coherence and comprehensibility. So your CC has to do with paragraphing. And paragraphing is interesting because for an examiner, I mean, it shows a lot right away. And I love it when I open up a writing assessment and I see clear paragraphs before reading a single word, because in my mind I'm thinking, awesome, it's probably at maybe a 6 minimum before you read one word, if there's good paragraphing in there. Now, a paragraph is not every 100 words starting a paragraph, right? It's one topic within a paragraph. What we call cohesive devices. So a cohesive device simply means words that kind of link phrases or sentences together but shows the direction that the idea is going to go. An example would be, however, comma, an example of this, comma, this can be seen in, comma, that type of thing. So we give you quite a lot of kind of templates to work with for the writing, because you might not even use those. I mean, when you're speaking, I don't know if we really say, however.
Yeah. Say but.
And that type of thing. Although this, and that type of thing, right? So that's why writing is pretty formal, and in speaking, there's a little bit of a difference, because you can really get a high score by using a little bit of a different approach.
Okay. Wow.
There's a lot of information.
Yes.
That's why it's 30 hours. 30 hours on writing.
30 hours.
Yeah.
So the 4 elements include the first 2. I missed that. I just started
grammar.
taking notes.
Yeah.
So grammar, and then?
Lexical resource. Vocabulary is what that is.
Okay. So we have grammar, vocabulary, task response, and coherence and comprehensibility. Yes.